Welcome to Storm Tracker, your eye on the storm of your Carolina Hurricanes, and your home for the best insight and analysis to keep you totally informed on what's happening with the Canes. Whether it's the latest news on the ice or off the ice, we've got you covered. Now let's begin. Here's your host, Tom Ray.
Well, January was another great month for Carolina Hurricanes prospects right around the globe. Whether they were in the American Hockey League, in the Eastern Coast Hockey League, or playing in Europe, or even the college ranks, they're really getting it done. And as usual, to talk about the top 5 prospects of the month for, in this case, January, I'm delighted to be joined by our prospect guru, of course, Nick Bass. Nick, welcome.
Hi, I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, and you know, another big month for the prospects. Same guys seem to be continuing to play well, and we're going to hear about a couple of new ones, I think, this month as well. Kicking it off at number 5 is a guy that you like a lot. He was, if you might recall, he was the first 17-year-old to produce 50 goals in the Quebec Major Junior League since Sidney Crosby. So this guy has got a great pedigree. He's off to a huge start. He's got 36 goals and 30 assists in just 45 games. Of course, that's Justin Poirier.
Yeah, he had a really good month. He was a big reason for Drakkar winning a lot of games because he was primarily involved in a lot of their production. I still think he hits 50 this year. It's going to be really close, but I think there's a better chance than not that he does still hit 50 goals, which would be the first time in a very long time that a kid's gone back-to-back 50 goals. The one thing that will forever worry me, at least right now, is skating. Realistically, I'm not too worried about his size. His size, he has shown, and he has told, whenever I was at camp, prospect development camp in the summer, he told me he has no issue with his size. He doesn't see it. He sees it as an advantage because he can use his frame to still just beat people. And he does consistently. He'll have guys that are, a few inches taller than him, and he's still going around them. He's still bodying them off the puck and maintaining possession. Poirier had a really good month. His shot is obviously his shot. It's incredible. And it was a pretty good month of January for him.
Yeah, and I think I remember Darren York was pretty complimentary about Justin's shot. Of course, he said he can just score. And we've seen that numerous times in the highlights. So another great month for Justin. And I'm kind of with you. I think he's going to hit 50 again. He's definitely tracking that way. He's, I think the last 13 games, as you might have mentioned, he had 9 goals. So he's definitely on a tear, and he looks like he's going to hit that 60 mark again, or 50 mark again. Sorry. In any case, coming in at number 4 is a kind of a newcomer to our discussions to a large extent. Defenseman, he checks in at 5'9" and 160, 6'2" actually, and 174, and that's Joel Nystrom. Nystrom playing with Farjestad in the Swedish Hockey League. He's off to a pretty good start. He's got 23 points his first 40 games. Can you tell us about Joel?
Yeah, Nystrom, I'll still mess up that pronunciation from time to time. He's awesome. He's been in a very big role with Farjestad for the past 2-ish years. He's kind of been fluctuating as a top 4 guy, top pairing guy. He was really instrumental in them going to the Champions Hockey League final, which is coming up in a few days. We'll probably have something about that just to get attention, because I think you can watch it for free. But he's awesome. The offense is like pushing a lot further than people expected, which is always good. The defensive side was never really a worry. He's a true two-way defenseman. His skating is unbelievable. Another thing that I remember about development camp was that Nystrom normally led these drills, like skating drills, because they would show it. He would do it perfectly the first time, and then if somebody needed help, they would just go, "Hey, you do it," and show him. He's sick. One note about that is recently Luke DeCock did a podcast with Joe and Joe, their local media in the Triangle, and mentioned that
those guys. Yes,
Joel Nystrom will be in North America next season. His contract runs out with Fargestad after this season, and he will come over to North America since he's already signed an entry-level contract. So expect him to be like a fringe NHL guy, but more than likely play with the Wolves next year.
Yeah, Nystrom, he and Noel Franzen, another one over there, seem to be really developing well and quietly. Not hearing a lot about them here in North America. So, he continues to add to that offensive mix of just incredibly talented defensemen. I don't know how they're going to keep all these defensemen, and we're going to get a chance to talk about a few more during the conversation today. But this is great news to see that Nystrom is heading to North America. The next guy up is a guy that I am really excited about. I think he's starting to make a case to be a potential NHLer at some point in the future. And I think this is a bit of a surprise, a smaller player. Checks in at 5'8" and 175. He's been red hot with the Chicago Wolves. He's now got 31 points in 40 games. So he's definitely on a tear, and that's Justin Robidas.
Yeah, Justin Robidas is sick. Matt and I talk about it a lot, but we're gigantic fans of Robidas because he's just an insane player to watch. If you ever get a chance to watch Wolves games, you will see 93. That's the number he wears, and he's just everywhere on the ice. He's power play. He's He's one of the first penalty killers. He's top line center as of right now because Suzuki was up with the Hurricanes. He was also playing wing as well. He's been everywhere, and he's been just exceptional. And I don't think enough people recognize that this is his first season in the AHL. Last season at the ECHL level, he was doing great. He was having an awesome season, and then got hurt late January, early February, and it cut his season short. Now he's playing in the AHL. He's fully healthy, and he's top 5 in AHL rookie scoring, which for a player like him, who was like a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, a later round draft pick, and obviously his smaller frame is not typical of something like that. And Matt and I've discussed in the past of he has a genuine NHL future as a great bottom 6 forward. You can play him at center, you can play him at wing because he's winning faceoffs, but he's also doing great work on the wing. He has a genuine NHL future. I doubt anything this year, but definitely within the next year or two, I definitely think Robidas will make play in his first NHL game.
Yeah, and I feel the same way, and that's why I kind of started saying I think he's got a future in the NHL. They did it right. He went to the ECHL last year. He got a chance to kind of cut his teeth in a league outside of junior, and I think it worked well for him. And he is leading the Chicago Wolves in scoring right now. So I mean that's quite a statement for this youngster. And as you say, and again, I've seen this repeatedly, he's in all situations. He's good in the faceoff dot. He's very strong killing penalties. And, of course, he's dangerous on the power play. And as we watch a lot of the highlights of Robidas, he's magic on the ice. He sees the ice extremely well for a little man, and I'll tell you, he's impressive. So I'm hoping that, as you look forward to some of the challenges the Canes are going to have, one of them is center ice. As we know, the development of centers hasn't been a hallmark for the Canes in recent years. So he's definitely got an opportunity, I think, to be in consideration in the coming years with the Canes. So it's good stuff. Next guy, of course, not too much needed to say about this guy. He's been on a tear with Chicago as well. And again, he's a guy that, when you talk about this player, here's what McKean said about him, and I think it kind of says it well. He has sublime all-direction skating ability, crisp puck skills, and a big shot from the point. That's pretty easy to figure out who that guy is. And, of course, that's Scott Morrow.
Yeah, I just really quickly wanted to touch on that center comment because, in complete honesty, I don't really think it's fair. If we go back to 2020, they drafted 2 technical centers. One was Ponomarev, who was traded for Gensel, and then the other one was Mercuri, who's still in college.
Yes.
2020, we had Robidas, who is still a center, but also is flexed out to the wing. Nikita Kuznetsov, who is in like the second division of Russian hockey and has kind of fluctuated, but he's also on the wing now. And then Ville Koivunen, who was traded for Gensel, but he also is now just a full-time winger.
Yeah.
And then in the past three drafts, it looks like they haven't taken a single center. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a development thing. It's something that I've definitely tried to talk about a lot more. Is just that unless you're drafting high in the draft, or unless you take it in like the first three pick, your first three picks, you're not going to get a center. You're not going to get a good one anyways. You're going to get a guy that has a long shot. But Scott Morrow is awesome. Obviously now he's with the Hurricanes just for a little bit of time, I would assume. He's taken over the blue line in Chicago. He's been their number one guy all year. He's averaging around 20 minutes a night. He's getting penalty kill time. He's, getting power play time. He's doing everything right. And everything is starting to mesh. Everything is starting to come together. The offense is obviously still there. Right. He's transitioning the puck really well. He's moving it crisply, and he's moving with the puck a lot better. The skating is still kind of but it's definitely good enough to get him by at the NHL level. And the biggest thing is the defense and recognizing plays. Andrew Rinaldi had a great video of just like the best Scott Morrow play you could imagine, which was him jumping play, breaking it up, taking in transition, going around Artyom Levshinov, who was the second overall pick last year, and drawing a penalty. It was the perfect encapsulation of what Morrow has done a lot better this year, as well as combining what he already knows. So, Scott Morrow's been awesome. I'm glad to see him get an NHL opportunity this year. And, if it's not this year, he's a full-time NHL guy. It's definitely going to be next year.
Yeah, that's going to make for an interesting situation on the blue line for the Hurricanes, because if they've got Scott coming in, and it looks like he's definitely getting closer, and, of course, Alexander Nikishin, they're going to have two low-cost guys on the blue who are outstanding prospects. It's interesting, Rod Brindamore, when we're trying to figure out why is Scott Morrow up with the team, and particularly when he was due to go and play in the AHL All-Star game, Rod Brindamore said, really what it is, he's getting better. I watched him from the start of the season to now, his games, and he's getting better and better. And so we heard some of that in the broadcast as well the other night, and they talked a little bit about the fact that, just the development of Scott this year has been just incredible with some outstanding coaching in Chicago. And this kind of plays back to something we've talked a lot about too, Nick, is having Chicago as an AHL, affiliate and a team where they can actually send players and have them grooming in the second best league in North America is fantastic, and it's really working well for Morrow. I think he's showing a lot different from last year. I don't know if you remember watching him in the two games he played at the end of the season last year, but this looks like a different player. And of course, as you mentioned, he's always had the offensive skill. Now he's building a very strong defensive game as well. So that's great news on Scott Morrow. We'll have to watch and see how this plays out, and whether it's because there's a little break or it was a break with Chicago, or whether or not the Canes are thinking they want to see more of Scott. We're going to have to follow that closely as things go along. And I'm sure that the folks watching the Wolves and certainly the Wolves players are hoping Scott's going to be back there soon, because he's a huge part of their team. One other thing I was going to mention about Scott recently, he's been teaming with Dominic Fensore. And that's an interesting combination. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think it was because Ronan Seeley got hurt for a game or two, and they just put Fensore out because he had me on the second pair. Either that or just Fensore has been playing incredibly, and they wanted to reward him. The pair as a whole has been really, really, really good. Both of them have definitely improved their defensive games to a level to where they can play with each other and still be really respectable.
Yes.
It's like instant transition threat, because Fensore's offense is undeniable and his skating's better than Morrow. So if Fensore gets the puck, he's elite in transition. If Morrow gets the puck, he can take it. But both of their defensive games have come around so much to where you have the ability to play them together, and they've been a really solid top pair in the AHL.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thought when you kind of reflect that both Dominic and Scott are offense first guys. That's what they're known for, and really, driving the offense. And I've always been impressed with Dominic Fensore. I think he's a guy that sees the ice extremely well, and it's going to be exciting to see those two together if they can continue to have a chance to do that, because both of them are outstanding talents, and will be pressing for positions with the Canes in the future. Number one, this guy just came back from the World Juniors in Canada. Wasn't particularly excited about what happened. Of course, Team Canada was knocked out, so it wasn't a great situation for him. But he has been on a tear of late, and that's Bradly Nadeau.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Nadeau has been his play off the puck. One, he's seeing everything a lot better, and he's making anticipated moves toward places. Like, he and Ryan Suzuki had multiple 2-on-1s to which they would score. And especially there was a goal this past weekend that it was a Scott Morrow backdoor cross ice to Nadeau, and it was just perfectly placed, and Nadeau was in the right spot, and it went in the back of the net because he's a great shooter. As well, Nadeau, with the puck on his stick, is not just always, and he never has been a player that is just, I'm going to shoot the puck as soon as I get it. He's letting, before the World Juniors and kind of before this little break, Nadeau would not anticipate fully. He would get the puck, wait a second, think about what he wanted to do, and then tried it. Right now, Nadeau his confidence is so high, and his ability is coming back, or starting to finally translate maybe, that he is able to, as soon as he gets the puck, he knows what he wants to do with it. And then obviously it's leading to a lot more success at the AHL level, seen by his goal total, his point total. And yeah, his shot is just crazy. It's something I don't see that often. Nadeau's shot is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of his recent goals too, Nick, and he's picking corners like incredible. And, obviously we knew that he could wire it when he opens up on that left side and fires, but he's been showing a different skill and really showing that he's got a goal scorer's touch. So great to see he's rounding out his game. He's getting confidence like crazy right now, and that seems to be kind of an interesting development with some of these guys in Chicago, is that, after a half of season that they've, had some pretty substantial coaching, and I think some great coaching in Chicago, are really starting to show what they can do. And of course, they've been on a tear as a team. They've been playing extremely well of late as well. So great to see all of that. Nadeau, I think he's a future Cane too, so we'll keep watching him. Looks like he's on track to maybe 25, 30 goals this year. So that's going to be a nice rookie season for him in the American Hockey League for sure. And I know you've got a good feeling about Nadeau as well, as you've met him, and he's a great guy too, a great young kid.
Nicest kid, I swear. And it's his family is super nice. I think I've told this story, but I went to go to a UMass Maine game last season. Whenever Nadeau, Morrow, Mercury were all there, and I got to meet a lot of Nadeau's family because it was the last weekend of the season, or like second to last weekend. I think it was their senior day, but they just brought in a lot of family. His family is just super nice, and he himself is just a super humble guy. Like, he knows what he has, but he's not going to just brag and show it off. He's very just down to earth, calm, just one of the nicest people you'll ever talk to. I can't speak highly enough of Nadeau as just a person and a player.
Yeah, and that fits quite nicely with the Hurricanes' philosophy as well. I was on a podcast recently with Shane Willis, and he was talking about, the type of young players that the Canes want, the players they want on their team. And exactly what you're saying about Nadeau is right on to what he was saying as well. That's great. So let's take a look now at the honorable mentions for the month. And I know you've got some interesting ones. First on the list, of course, is a guy that I was a little surprised when he was sent down to Bloomington. The AHL Wolves decided to keep Ruslan Kazeev as the backup goaltender and sent Yana Peretz down to Bloomington. Peretz, of course, had played in the ECHL last year with Norfolk. So he knows that league, but he apparently has been on fire. What can you talk about Yana?
Yeah, well, I would say the Wolves keep Kazayev up for the fact that, the kid's fresh over from Russia and sending him to a team that maybe has like one Russian and not a lot in rural Midwest is probably not the best thing. Plus, you want the guy who's 19, 20, who just came over from a junior league to probably stay with the goalie coach they have in Chicago. I forget his name off the top of my head, but
Stan Dubicki.
You want him to get the most consistent coaching you can from a guy like that. There's nothing against Yanni Peretz as well. He's been stellar since going to Bloomington this year. I can't say I've watched a ton of Bloomington games just because, the opportunity has just never arisen.
Sure.
Like, even if I wanted to, I think they played their last game at like 10:30 a.m. and I'm in class at that point. I can't watch that. So, but Peretz has been really good. And the ECHL level is not it's not bad at all. No. It's still a good league. It's still a very respectable league. And to see him in his second ECHL season, the year-over-year growth is obviously a very positive thing. Yeah. I'd love to see him get back up with the Wolves, but at that same point, if he's back up with the Wolves, that means there's probably some goalie issues at a higher level. And honestly, I don't want to deal with that again. So,
yeah, I get it. We didn't have a lot of fun with some of the challenges the Canes had in goaltending. Yanni Peretz to me has always been very interesting. I'd seen him in the Southeast showcase games that for the prospect tourneys that he was in the last couple of years, and he looked good. And of course, he had a tremendous career with Quinnipiac. He was outstanding when they won the championship. So he's definitely got some capability there, and we just waiting to see how that's going to play out. I'm excited about him. I'm not sure where he fits in the Canes' future, but I do like Peretz. I think he's a talented goaltender. Another one of the guys that I watched a fair bit in the Frozen Four last year, the pre-series, was Lucas Mercury, and he's a guy that I know you want to talk about. Lucas, to me, is a big guy. He plays a heavy game. He reminded me a little bit about Jordan Staal. I've said that a few times. That he seems to be that kind of a player. But it looks like he's adding a bit of an offensive touch now as well. What's going on with Lucas?
He's gigantic. He's physical. He knows how to use his body. He's doing everything, and he's been the 1C for UMass for a little bit now. He's getting around like 18, 19 minutes a night, and he's doing incredibly well in those minutes. With Mercury, I'm really interested to see what happens with him, because this is the year the Canes have to sign him. They lose his rights in the summer of 25. And there's definitely a way, I haven't mentioned this besides someone else, there's definitely a way for him to get an entry-level contract for the sole reason that the Canes' organizational depth at center is so not there. They haven't drafted many, as I mentioned earlier. So there's definitely a way in which he gets signed, and he's definitely, I think it's almost not guaranteed because nothing is guaranteed, but he's probably going to be a really decent AHL player, because with guys like him, they're just big bodied and they can skate decently well. And if they know how to play their role, there's always going to be a role for them somewhere. Mercury had a really good month of January. Hopefully UMass does get out of a really, really hard Hockey East and they make it to the tournament again, because I think that's when you'll see the gear even get turned up again.
Yeah, as I say, when I watched him in the playoffs last year, the Frozen Four games, I thought he was very, very strong. So again, a player that brings size. He can skate. He plays a heavy game. He looks like he's pretty good in the faceoff dot as well. So again, a player that we're going to keep an eye on for sure. The next player we haven't heard a lot about. This guy is Alexander Perevalov, next on the honorable mentions. I want to say a couple things about Alexander. Corey Pronman of The Athletic said this about him. Perevalov can make a lot of good things happen with the puck. He has excellent stick skills, showing consistent ability to beat checks one-on-one and create inside the offensive zone with his stick handling. So he's a guy that very highly thought of. I read a number of different reports on him when he was drafted, I think in the third round. He's a guy that a lot of folks really liked. What's going on with Alexander?
I think for one thing now is just that he's healthy. I had to pull up his things, but I mean, he didn't play what was that, 39 games in 23. He played, I mean, that's 25 or 24 games last year, and this year he's played 34. So he's already on pace to play his most games in the past 2 years. Health is a big concern. Obviously, it's kind of tough to see guys that just go down. The skill is there. There's no denying that he has genuine skill.
Yes.
The thing is, can he stay healthy and can the whole game develop? Because he's already been moved once at the VHL level because the coaches didn't trust him. Yeah. So with his new team, he's doing great. He has 8 points in 13 games, and that is including a game today. He's doing fine with the new team. Now, it's just now a fact of, can he continue having success with the team so that, you know, the coaches continue to trust him? I mean, I don't hate the kid, obviously, but I need him to stay healthy, and I need him to continue playing how he has, and then people will be able to get a better read on him as a player.
Sounds a bit like Alexander Nikishin.
Yeah,
similar story, right?
Yeah. Kinda. Rykov has been healthier than Paraveilov over the past few seasons, though.
Okay, but yeah, so we'll keep an eye on him. Again, he's another one of the fine Russians that were drafted a little later than some folks expected. So we'll see how his development continues in Russia. Okay, the final person we'll talk to on the honorable mentions. He seems like he's discussed almost every month on some of our discussions, and that would be, of course, Ryan Suzuki. Suzuki's played very well. We actually saw him get a cup of coffee with the Hurricanes playing a couple of games. What can you tell us about Ryan?
I kind of there's not really much to talk about with Suzuki anymore. I mean, everybody knows the skill he has, the talent he has. He's an exceptional playmaker. He skates well. He defends well. I mean, you saw he saved a goal at the NHL level with a clearance. He was, now again, small sample size, but 57.5% in the faceoff circle, which, you know, that's decently good. That's pretty not strong, because he is getting, you know, the fourth line matchup. At the same point, it's still not bad. Anytime you have a guy averaging over, I think, like 52, 53 is good for a center.
Yes.
I'm glad to see him get called up. That was the big thing. That was a very, not surreal moment for me, because that kind of sounds vain, but like Matt and I keep continuing to say Matt and I, because I talked with him a lot. It's very easy for me to just combine me and him, but we have just discussed, like, there comes to a point where you have to try him. You have to give him a game, because he's healthy and he's playing really well. And I'm glad to see him get that moment. I think his parents were obviously a lot happier. His dad, Rob, is hilarious, because as soon as Suzuki got called up and they said he was going to play, he tweeted out a little image that just said "House Divided," and there was a Canadian logos on one side and the Hurricanes logo on the other. I about lost it, but Suzuki's good. I think I would love to see him get called up again, but unless injuries happen, this is not going to happen, because they still have Tyson Yost that is at the NHL level, just hurt. So I'm interested to see this coming weekend when the Wolves play again. I want to see if he continues to keep playing at that level that I've seen from this past year. And if he does, then I think he's an NHL player. I've said it a few times, but I think he showed he's an NHL player. It's just, will he get another opportunity to show that he's an NHL player with the Hurricanes?
Well, and interestingly enough, they decided to go with Juha Jaska at center for a number of games. Well, Tyson Jost has been out. I was kind of hoping they would bring Suzuki up, and they finally did. And he got a chance to play a couple of games, as I mentioned. He didn't look out of place. He didn't really distinguish himself, but he didn't look out of place, so that was fine. So we'll see. But he's definitely having an outstanding season in Chicago, and we'll look forward to seeing how he continues to develop as well. So, some interesting folks on the honorable mentions this month. Any other folks before we talk about the Alexander Nikishin watch?
I guess I think I expanded on it. I haven't actually expanded on it, but the Wolves blue line next year is going to be really weird. I think it's going to be maybe not drastically different, but I definitely think it's going to be different comparatively to this year because I would assume there's a few changes that are going to happen there. Obviously, it's not like confirmed, but it's kind of a very badly kept secret because contract run out. You have them already on an entry level contract. It's very easy. So, and especially with European players, they have to play out the remainder of their contract before they come over. So Nystrom will be in the AHL next year, or NHL, whatever they can figure out. If you go off the assumption that Scott Morrow gets a full-time job next year, he's not going to be there anymore.
Right.
And then it kind of depends on their free agents, and some other things, if they bring in a guy, if Vladimir Grudinin comes over this year, if, another guy or two want to come over this year.
What about Noah Franzen?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I don't think that one's going to happen. I think he'll probably stay in Sweden or try and find something else, but I don't think AHL is happening, at least for the next few years. It's just going to look really different. And then the only other guy would be the guy you just mentioned, Rykov. He's back with the AHL team, and his first game back from injury, he scored. He's another guy I would fully expect. Again, nothing's confirmed, but he hasn't signed a new contract with Tractor. And his draft year, he said when his contract's over, he's coming over. So I would, if you're writing it down in pencil, I would say there's a better chance than not Alexander Rykov will come to North America next year.
So he joined Gleb Trikozov on the Wolves. Yeah.
That is true.
As a forward, of course. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to have probably three guys who will be back for sure, and that would be Alexei Himasalmi, Dominic Mansouri, and of course Charles Alexis Legault. Those three guys should be back. If they have Nystrom with them, that's a good starting four. And you have to think the Canes will have, one of the veterans. Maybe Ty Smith will be back. They'll have one or two veterans back there as well. So still a pretty interesting defensive core.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I definitely think the top four is probably just going to get random and wild because I definitely, with the top four, both Fensore and Seeley are both restricted free agents.
Oh, I forgot about Seeley. Ronan Seeley, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say it's going to look very much so different than what we've all seen this year. I'm excited about it, obviously, but also this D-core they have now that's being led by Spyros Anastas, who I see as a very good coach.
Yes.
He runs the defense, and he's been incredible this year. I just think it's going to look not drastically different. It's just going to look different next year.
Yeah, very interesting. I know Andrew Rinaldi had a nice piece on Coach Anastas the other day, so it's kind of interesting. Okay, so it's that time when we talk about the Alexander Nikishin watch, and I know that you had some words on Alexander this month as well. What can you tell us about Alexander Nikishin?
He got hurt. He had a concussion. He missed 2 games, and he still ended up almost a point per game. I mean, what more can you expect from him? It's kind of... I have a big... Hopefully I get it done. I don't know if I actually will, but I have a big piece coming out, hopefully Saturday, about like Nikishin's whole journey and becoming the best defenseman in SKA history. It's because it's no light thing at this point.
Yes.
Again, nothing is confirmed, nothing is official, and nothing is done. But he still hasn't signed a contract. And obviously when you have Eric Tolsky go on a broadcast and broadly say, hey, this is going to happen.
Yes.
But it is rare for any team to bring in a captain of a well-respected franchise anywhere in the world. And it's rarer to have that guy be this incredible player where he's been nearly a point per game player in 3 back-to-back seasons, if you're counting this year, where he's tied for first in goals. He leads the assist category for all-time defensemen by a wide margin, and he leads points by over 30. It's rare that happens, and it's even more rare that he's 23 years old. But somehow, some way, the team has lucked into the best defenseman in a franchise's history, and that defenseman is 23 years old.
Yes,
it's insane. But yeah, he got hurt, which kind of sucked, but he was amazing this month. I'm still going to throw caution on anybody thinking he would play this year, unless a drastic injury happens and SKA maybe gets knocked out earlier. And it would have to be just the perfect storm of things happening. And I truly mean that. I would, if he does sign, I would say next year is when you would see him first play an NHL game. I just highly doubt anything like that would happen.
Well, a couple things. So Tony DeAngelo, of course, left SKA during this period and headed off to the Islanders. Have you seen that? Has that been a positive thing for Nikishin?
100%. Yeah. It's been also left is going to be put in some heavy quotation marks because, there's been a lot of good reporting on the reasons why he left. And that's all I will say about that. But no, he's back on the top power play unit, and the power play has been dangerous.
Yes.
As well as he's just back to playing how he normally plays, and it's working out incredibly better. His point production's up, and everything just, to me, SKA's power play looks better now than it was a few weeks ago. So I'm not complaining.
No. Now, an interesting thing on timing, and I know you feel very strongly that we won't see Alexander in a Canes uniform this year. But here's timing, just so we're aware of it. So SKA's season will end on March 22nd. So they would then go into the playoffs. Last year, their playoff run was 2 rounds and lasted about 3 weeks. So if you took that as a bit of a kind of guideline, that would suggest that Nikishin would be available to come to North America about the middle of April. And that's kind of the end of the season, the regular season. In North America. So it's possible that he would be available as the playoffs started. Now, as you say, rightfully, it would take a lot of things to line up for him to actually see action with the Hurricanes this year. But I just wanted to let everybody know exactly what we're dealing with in timing and how it might affect kind of, if he comes over at the end of the year or not. Okay.
The also with that, because everybody got a big taste of it last year whenever Matvei Michkov was coming over.
Right.
It takes a while, even when, they finally get contracts sorted and, time expires and everything like that. It still takes time. Visas take forever. Planes take forever. Traveling takes forever. Like Michkov was done with his SKA contract and all that fun little stuff. It still took him 2 to 3 weeks to eventually get on a plane to North America and get here. As well, all KHL contracts, they moved it back. All KHL contracts technically do not expire until May 31st.
Ah, okay.
So again, I'm not saying it physically can't happen because nothing is ever just fully confirmed or fully set in stone. But it would still take just it would take the world moving and moving a lot in the right direction to even think about it. That's why I'm going to continue to say it. And I know people are going to get mad at me, but unfortunately, it's just going to have to be a wait. It's, we're finally in the year that we're going to see him play hockey in a Canes uniform. Can we just celebrate that fact before we start? It just, gotta calm down, gotta wait a little bit longer.
No, and it's okay. And I'm not suggesting anything different than that either, Nick. The only caveat, and I think you mentioned it, is that if the Canes have a significant injury on the defensive core, and there's a way for them to make it work, I would not be surprised if they tried. Because of course their plan, having made a recent move, their plan is definitely to go for the cup this year. So So yeah, we don't know. Anything can happen. And as you said, also Eric Tulsky was a little bit bullish about his expectation of getting Nikishin signed fairly quickly after after he has finished with playing with SKA. So we'll have to see. A lot of moving parts. At this stage, the Canes defense is solid. Don't see a problem there. But of course, things can change too. I wanted to talk about one other thing before we wrapped up, which was the recent major blockbuster trade by the Hurricanes. And I know you've had some thoughts on that. The Canes, of course, really shocked the world with the deal to acquire Mikko Rantanen from Colorado and, of course, Taylor Hall, and gave up some pretty good pieces in Marty Necas and Jack Drury. Thoughts?
Glad they didn't include a prospect. That was my big thing. But I mean, as people have seen over the past few, I guess a year, but maybe like past few months, past few weeks, they have plans for these guys. The organization is incredible with timing. Timing is like their contract timing is just insane. Like, if you're looking directly next year, Dmitry Orlov's contract runs out when you can insert Alexander Nikishin.
Yes, exactly.
You're looking at Brent Burns. His contract runs out at the end of this year. You can replace him directly with Scott Morrow.
Yeah.
Their timing is insane. With this, I'm glad they didn't move anybody because they obviously see, they see Morrow as a big piece going forward.
Right.
Bradly Nadeau is going to be a big piece going forward because he has legit 40-goal potential, which is something the Canes haven't had in a lot. Well, haven't had in about 2 weeks because now they have Mikko Rantanen, obviously. But getting it done when using Necas is, in my opinion, better than trying to do prospects. But obviously, I don't think the Avalanche would have done anything for prospects because they're obviously a very win-now team.
For sure.
So I was happy with it. Matt told a funny story about it, but we were all just like fine getting Taylor Hall. We were like, yeah, Taylor Hall is cool. I like Taylor Hall, come to a new team that isn't losing all the time. You get re-energized, revitalized, you're happy. And then they go, oh yeah, it's also Mikko Rantanen. We all just kind of went, what? we just kind of had this moment of like, does that actually say Mikko Rantanen? Yeah, Mikko Rantanen's sick. I understand people are mad because he's snake bitten, and I also know people are mad because they want Jackson Blake thrown off the top pairing as fast as they can. But Blake's like the perfect guy to play with Rantanen because Rantanen's a pure goal scorer.
Yes.
He's just a gritty goal scorer, and you've seen the chemistry flash.
Yeah,
with Blake and with Aho, Blake is a gifted playmaker. So it's just one of those things of, he just got here. It's been 5 games. You just got to relax. Because I have seen some takes that, are just interesting. But yeah, I'm glad they got it done without a prospect. Cool. And I truly don't have any, like, withholdings, maybe, is that the right word? But I don't have any.
Yeah.
I think they'll sign him. I don't think there should be any real worry about that. I mean, Tulsky said this situation is completely different than Gensel. And I think people also just misconstrue the Gensel situation entirely because the timeline of events, again, this is what from I've seen and what I understand, was Gensel came to them and said, hey, I want 8 years and I want $9 million. Yeah. If you meet that number, I will sign. And the Hurricanes said, okay, I'm going to take my time and figure this out. And then you waited up until the second day of the draft. And then the Canes came back to the table and said, okay, we'll match. And then obviously then at that point, all the noise came out that Tampa was really interested. And they went, well, I can go to Tampa. Okay. Well, now I'm just going to go to the market, see how it plays out. And then you lose them. This is completely different. You have almost $40 million going into free agency, and you got Sebastian Aho, who's one of Mikko's best friends. I think this situation, it's entirely different, and I do think eventually they do get him signed just because they want him. Dundon has wanted a star for years at this point, and they finally have one. I don't think they're letting another one go.
I think, I tend to agree with you too, Nick. And I don't see it as a concern on the Hurricanes side. They're definitely going to come up with the cash. They've made that clear. They've got lots of money. Dundon's making lots of money with the Canes, so they've got the cash and they've got the cap room, which was the major problem last year, of course, with so many free agents, both restricted and unrestricted, that they had to deal with. It was just a horrendous situation. But I think the biggest challenge, and what we're going to be watching, will be, can Mikko have some fun and get some goals and do what he does best? I think that's just the big thing. He's just got to get a little bit of a run going. He's got to start to feel good about his teammates and just start to feel like this is a long-term home. And of course, we do know that the opportunity for the Hurricanes is different than anybody else, which is an 8-year deal. And that is a big advantage when you're Mikko Rantanen's age. So I'm like you. I feel pretty bullish about this. I think it's going to come together quite nicely. One other thing I was going to mention, you mentioned Jackson Blake, and yes, there's a lot of turmoil on Jackson these days. I kind of go back and forth on whether he should be on the top line or not. But I have to say this, and you said it rightfully so. He has been very effective on that top line. In fact, the guy that has not been effective has been Sebastian Aho, in my personal view.
Yeah.
I think the other guys have been really effective.
What I've noticed, and it's a gigantic little fun issue in prospect world, is the lack of patience shown is insane, because people want instant results. They want everything now. They want Mikko Rantanen to just not falter at all, losing, playing with Nathan MacKinnon. They want him to still just be on that pace, and they want Jackson Blake to be years beyond his time right now. They want him like 3-4 years in the future, where he's a much more polished and refined player. Yes. And it takes time. These things are not, they're not just like instantly, oh, I'm here. I'm still the exact same player playing with the exact same archetypes of player. Like Sebastian Aho is not Nathan MacKinnon. Yeah, these guys, they're not the same, but they just want everything to just be right. Blake has looked great on the top line. He's generating offense. And the big thing is he forces turnovers at an extremely high rate. It's multiple times a game where he'll forecheck, he'll get the puck in the offensive zone. And he has the playmaking ability to get the puck away and get it to somebody that might, be willing to shoot, i.e. Mikko Rantanen.
Yes.
And I know the big one is they want to see Jarvis moved up. And I'm not against it entirely. I got to get that out now. I mean, Rantanen, Aho, Jarvis sounds incredible. Yes. And Seth Jarvis obviously playing third line, but Jarvis he's playing awesome even on the third line.
Yes.
He's still playing great 5-on-5, and he's doing great things at PK, and he's on the power play. I got to be specific about that. But with Blake, I mean, I wouldn't even mind seeing Jarvis up there, because Blake in the same sheltered role that Svechnikov had in his rookie year, where he gets to play with Martinook and Stahl. He gets two bigger guys to kind of help him, and he still has good offensive moments. Yes. But at that same point, Blake and Rantanen have shown good chemistry off the jump. Like Blake is that goal that Rantanen just smacked the post on, that was going to be highlight reel. And it was from Blake to Rantanen. But since it didn't go in, people are just going to be like, oh, why is Jackson Blake still there? It's like, because Jackson Blake is a good player. I'm sorry it didn't go in. What do you want the puck to just magnetize to the back of the net? I don't. It's just, I don't know. Blake has also just been a great NHL player already, and the points aren't there, but he's still doing the right things.
Yes,
he's still.
Well, he wouldn't be getting the opportunity if he wasn't Nick. I can assure you that he wouldn't be getting the ice time if Rod and the crew didn't think he was deserving.
Yeah, and with that, he's still 5-on-5 defense is his best attribute right now. His ability to force turnovers is his best attribute, and his playmaking comes secondary right now because he just doesn't want to make a stupid mistake. And that's fine. It happens. They're young. He's 21. I'm older than him. It sucks.
But you know what? When I was watching him in some of his collegiate action, he was dominating. Like, he was incredible. And some of the things that I saw, you know, at the collegiate level where he controlled the puck, you know, he was fearless. He would go anywhere with the puck. And, you know, he'd go end to end, he'd do anything. And, you know, he brings some of that same, I think, you know, that fearlessness. He's been showing that this year as well, where he'll go into the tough areas and he'll battle and he'll do things that players, you know, at his stage as a rookie wouldn't even consider trying. So you got to like that. You got to like what he's trying to get done out there. And we'll just have to see how this plays out. But I'm like you. I think Blake has certainly earned a role with the Canes in their top 9, whether that's on the top line or back with the two dads, as Seth Jarvis would like to call Martinuk and Stahl. Hey, before we wrap up, any closing remarks?
I'm trying to think. I mean, Simon Forsmark still hasn't signed, even though he said he was close in a Swedish newspaper. Forsmark. Oscar Voulet was supposed to move to Hockey Allsvenskan. He's been rumored with a move for a few weeks now. It still hasn't happened. I don't really know what's going on there, so I don't know. Fyodor Avramov finally played the past 3 games for his VHL side, and he scored today, so that's fun. And Andrei Krutov is really, really cool. Big fan of that.
So we're definitely seeing some positive signs with folks in Europe and in Russia. You know, we're getting a lot of information on the folks here in North America, but it's great for you to, you know, keep us tuned in as to what's happening to some of these players that we don't hear so much about. That's great, Nick, as always. It's been great talking hockey as always, Nick. Finding out about the prospects, the top 5, and then some of the others. That's always, I think, great information for all Hurricanes fans. And thanks again for doing that. Yeah. For those of you listening or watching, we really appreciate you spending time with us. If you like this episode, please press the like button. If you have any comments or questions for Nick, please put them in the comment section below and we'll respond just as quickly as possible. And if you want to be alerted of future episodes of Storm Tracker, please press the subscribe and the bell buttons, and we'll alert you just as soon as they're available. As always, Nick and I thank you very much for joining us, and we'll look forward to getting together with you real soon, right here on Storm Tracker.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends for everything with the Canes you need. Storm Tracker.